So today I'll be doing a video discussing how strong is Natsu. Now when it comes to Natsu, this is a very controversial character when it comes to discussing his strength. A lot of people don't like how his fights turn out, but without further ado, this is going to be a video of me analyzing how strong he is. I'm going to be looking at all his fights, and I'm going to try to give you guys my unbiased and raw opinion on how strong I think Natsu is. Even though Natsu is one of my favorite characters, I'm not going to just put him at the top just because I like him. I'm going to try to be as objective as I can be with him. So yeah, without further ado, let's go and get into the video. Now I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna mention every single fight that Natsu has went through. I'm going to mention maybe like some of some of his more iconic fights, some of the fights that people will remember, because I'm not going to go through like when he fought against like foot soldiers or anything. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the video. Now the first fight that I want to get to is Natsu versus Volcan, and the reason why I gotta put this one up here is because this one was just entertaining. Like, this is really the first time that we see Natsu's strength really like in full effect. Like, yeah, we see Natsu versus Salamander, yeah, we see Natsu when he fought up against even the butler guy, but when he fought up against Volcan, aka Macau, this was Natsu actually somewhat trying. Now I'm not saying that Natsu went up full on 100%, but we saw Natsu was actually exerting a lot of energy and a lot of strength in this fight. So Natsu versus Volcan, even though he kind of beat him with ease once they like caught on to his trick and they weren't getting thrown off the mountain cliff, then yeah, the fight really pretty much turned to a one-sided battle. So yeah, Natsu and Lucy versus Volcan was really one of the first time we see Natsu go all out. Now the next fight that I want to discuss is Natsu versus Kageyama, and I know some of you guys might be thinking, who is Kageyama? Well, the reason why I gotta include this fight in here is because Kageyama is, I'm gonna be honest, he's Shikamaru. Like, he is Shikamaru 2.0. Like, he uses some type of like shadow magic, and he has like spiky hair like Shikamaru. Let's be honest, Kageyama is Shikamaru. He was also another earlier villain. I wasn't really going to put him on this list, but due to the fact that like he actually beat Natsu, granted Natsu didn't really know about his abilities, but yeah, they fought 2 times, and after Natsu found out about his abilities, then it was pretty much a wrap from there. But yeah, Natsu versus Kageyama was also a good way to show Natsu's strength early on. Now the biggest fight for Natsu was him versus Erag. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Listen, don't crucify me for the way I pronounce his name. I'm not Japanese. I think it's Iragor. Like, you guys know who I'm talking about, the guy who basically used the flute. This was a very dope fight. We saw what he was trying to do, the whole wind thing, and this was really the first time that we seen like science being used in a fairy tale battle. Like, we saw the thinking that Natsu had to do. So this fight right here showed that Natsu, yeah, he is definitely a battle genius, and you can't sleep on him when it comes to him using his mind. And the last fight that I want to discuss for the earlier on fights is him versus the lullaby. Now, it wasn't really just Natsu only. It was kind of like Natsu and the gang, Natsu and the main fairy tale members at this point going up against the lullaby. And this was just a dope fight because, me personally, I enjoy the group fairy tale fights. I think that the group fairy tale fights, when it's like multiple fairy tale members against one person or one thing, I like those the most, and those are enjoyable. So Natsu and the gang versus the lullaby was a great fight. Then we move on to Natsu versus Ursa, and this fight really occurred. This was really like a, I don't want to say that it wasn't like a serious fight, because Natsu, he wasn't intending to beat her, but at the same time, Ursa, we saw what she used. She pulled out the Fire Empress armor to try to nerf him, but this fight really didn't have like a clear-cut winner because we know it got interrupted. But yeah, Natsu versus Ursa, I thought it would be dope to mention it and bring this fight up. Now the next fight that I want to discuss is Natsu versus Leon, and the reason why I want to discuss this one is because Leon kind of gave Natsu that work. Like, yes, he was kind of giving him and Gray the work back in the whole little village arc. I think this was a great fight because Natsu, yeah, let's be honest, at this point he was taking a lot of W's, so the fact that he was getting worked by Leon a bit, I thought it was dope. And we really seen Leon, let's be honest, when he was first introduced like around this time, he was looking like he was going to be OP. So shout out to Leon, Natsu versus Leon, that was a cool fight. Now, the next fight that I want to discuss is Natsu versus Gajio. And I'm talking about the first fight, you know, the first time they actually fought and encountered. Now, this one, it's not really like the main bread and butter, but this fight was dope and I enjoyed this fight. You know what I'm saying? It was the first clash between the two Dragon Slayers. Very slept on, very underrated fight. Now, the next fight, Natsu versus Arya, however you want to pronounce it, was very crucial because this was the first time that we really see Natsu take an L. Like, yes, we actually seen Natsu take an L to Arya. That was a very, like, crucial moment because at this point, I thought Natsu was just going to run through, like, the Phantom Lord Guild. But, yeah, when he took an L to him, that was spooky. And then we move on to Natsu versus Gajio, like their actual fight when they both, like, when we seen Gajio, he's like his iron form. This fight is very iconic. This is basically like the Goku and Vegeta of the fight. Like, this is that main fight that everybody was looking for, and it definitely didn't disappoint. Natsu versus Gajio was definitely an amazing fight. Now, the next fight that I want to discuss is Natsu versus Jalal. Now, this one was when another iconic moment came up because we seen Natsu, he eats the Ethereum and he basically gets Dragon Force for the first time. Yes, this is our first time seeing Dragon Force. I did enjoy the Natsu and the Jalal fight. It was dope. And yeah, I definitely do gotta say that this fight opened up the door for the Dragon Force and it kind of opened up Natsu to a whole new level. Now, the next one is Natsu versus Laxus, and I'm gonna be honest, this was one of my favorite fights, and it was really Natsu and Gajio, but really not Natsu. He was the one who got in the final, bro, so that's why I want to throw him in here. So yeah, Natsu versus Laxus, dope fight, enjoyed it a lot, and it just showed you how strong Laxus was because Natsu, he even admitted, he was like, yo, I'm not nowhere near as strong as you. We saw when Natsu was all injured and banged up, he was like, yo, let's still, he was like, Laxus, let's fight. And then we saw Laxus, he kind of just like moved him to the side. So yeah, this showed right here that Natsu, he still had some ways to go if you want to become the strongest person in the Fairy Tail Guild. Now, the Natsu versus Cobra was a fight that's heavily slept on. This is one of my favorite fights, you know, having Cobra being able to hear everywhere, you know, Cobra and his little pet snake going up against Natsu and Happy, you know, them flying. Yeah, you know, this fight is very underrated, very slept on, dope fight. I enjoyed this a lot. These two battling out in the air. Yeah, this fight was definitely something that Fairy Tail fans, I think, sleep on the most. I don't know why, but this fight was dope. Natsu versus Zero. Now, Natsu versus Zero, this was a very controversial fight because for the most part, Zero was skunking Natsu. He was giving Natsu the business, and then we see Jalal, he comes up with the Flame of Rebuke. Natsu ends up eating it, goes Dragon Force, boom, boom, boom. But this just shows that, yeah, Natsu, without the help of Jalal, he definitely would not have defeated Zero because Zero was pretty much beating him down at this point, and then it had to take the Flame of Rebuke Dragon Force in order for Natsu to get back in. So yeah, shout out to Jalal because he definitely, let's just say that he threw Natsu an alley-oop on this one. Now, Natsu versus Gildarts was definitely a battle of not to test Natsu's will. Like, we all knew that Gildarts at this point, he was clearly stronger than Natsu. Like, that is no question. However, the fact that Natsu pretty much got demolished by Gildarts, like, he really couldn't even do anything against him, was just crazy. I mean, this was Natsu's biggest L that we've seen so far up until this point. Natsu versus Gildarts. Gildarts really did give Natsu the work. Now, Natsu versus Zankro is definitely a fight that is another underrated fight. You know, this is the first time seeing a God Slayer and a Dragon Slayer go at it. Zankro, we saw the epic one when Natsu end up eating his flames. He ends up combining the dragon and the God Slayer flames. Very dope moment and very hype moment in the Tenro Island arc. Now, another big moment is Natsu versus Bluno, and the reason why I gotta throw this in there is because we know that Gildarts, well, I don't want to really get too much into spoilers, but we know that Natsu, he ends up losing to Bluno. Gildarts ends up coming and saving them, and yeah, let's just say that this is going to tie into a fight on this list that's going to be later on in the series. And last but not least, I gotta discuss Natsu and the gang versus Hades. Now, I'm not gonna lie, Natsu, he definitely did have one of the biggest parts, if not the biggest parts, in defeating Hades. We saw when they all of them basically just started pushing Natsu. They was like, go, go, go. And they basically like gave him a little boost. He went in there and took down Hades. But yeah, Natsu in the group versus Hades, very dope fight. My actual favorite fight in the series so far. So yeah, Natsu versus Hades, epic. Now, this fight is very controversial, mainly because it kind of didn't make any sense, but we have Natsu versus Giemma. Giemma is basically the leader of the Sabretooth Guild, and when Natsu one-shot at him and took him down like it was nothing, I was like, sheesh. Like, if he's doing this to the Sabretooth Guild master, who basically made Sting and Rogue look like they were a bunch of cats. I'm just gonna say cats. If you guys know what I mean when I say cats, then yeah. But yeah, he basically took them down. He took him down with ease. So this made Natsu look like he was like on some guild master level stuff. So yeah, Natsu versus Giemma, very controversial fight. Now, Natsu versus Sting and Rogue. A lot of people don't like this due to the fact that, one, it was supposed to be Natsu and Gajio versus Sting and Rogue, but Natsu basically said, yo, get out of here, Gajio. He basically just threw him down into some dragon graveyard. Then we have him basically destroying Sting and Rogue while they're both in Dragon Force mode. Yes, a lot of people, they have gripes with this fight. They don't like it, and I can actually see why, but from like a, you know, just from a standpoint of a fight wise, it was still pretty enjoyable, and it showed that Natsu, he's on a whole nother level. Then we move on to Natsu versus Future Rogue. Yeah, Natsu versus Future Rogue. Future Rogue, he was looking like he was OP. Like, we saw what he was doing. He was able to control dragons. And Natsu versus Future Rogue was definitely a huge fight for Natsu. And we know that he ended up actually teaming up with Atlas Flame later on when he went and fought up against Future Rogue in Mother Glare. So yeah, Natsu versus Future Rogue, dope stuff. And then we move on to Natsu versus Jackal. Yes, Natsu versus Jackal, another dope fight, especially if you watch this in the anime. In the anime, it was 1,000 times better, you know, because they added some in-canon filler where basically they had Natsu going up against Jackal for a longer period of time. Very dope stuff, and I enjoyed that fight a lot in the anime. Very hype. Now, Natsu and Gajio versus Tempesta and Torafusa. This was also a dope fight because we get to see Natsu teaming up with Gajio. They both using, well, Gajio at this point, he didn't use Dragon Force, but Natsu, he's using Dragon Force. They're both powering up, going at it. Very dope fight, and I enjoyed this part a lot. Like, Natsu and Gajio versus Tempesta and Torafusa, very hype. And then my favorite fight in this arc, in the Tardos arc, Natsu and Gray versus, this is hard to explain, Natsu and Gray versus Margear. Now, the reason why I gotta throw this one in there is because we seen Margear. He was basically Celestial Spirit King level, you know, at this point, Celestial Spirit King level. It looked like that the Celestial Spirit King was actually not nobody to play around with. You guys know, he's my profile picture. So yeah, we see Margear, he was basically someone on that level, and we saw Natsu, he tried to take him on one-on-one, and he couldn't do that. So this fight was very good to, like, this showed us that Natsu, he was at least below Celestial Spirit King because he wasn't able to take out Margear by himself. We know Gray ended up coming assisting him. So yeah, this was a very good fight to see where Natsu stood on the power totem. Now, that was actually the last fight of the anime. So if you are an anime only and you don't want to get spoiled on upcoming fights, I suggest you leave. But now I'm going to get into the manga spoilers. So without further ado, let's go and get into it. Now, Natsu versus Agio, and this really isn't just Natsu, it's Natsu and the gang versus Agio, but really Natsu, he's with the person that like charged in, and we saw Agio basically push them all back like it was nothing. So yeah, I definitely do gotta say that Natsu versus Agio, or Natsu and the gang versus Agio, showed that they weren't, at that time, they weren't ready to take on Spring and 12 members. And then we go to the Natsu and Zera first fight, and I'm not gonna lie, Blaze Dragon King mode was incredible. This was when Natsu was at Blaze Dragon King mode, he was definitely on a whole nother level. Like, he was, I don't even know, I think he was definitely above Zerus when he had Blaze Dragon King mode, but we do know that Happy ended up interrupting the fight. And yeah, he was able to take out Zeref. But I definitely do think that with Blaze Dragon Key mode, he was definitely on par, if not stronger than Zeref. And then we move on to Natsu and Lucy versus Jacob, and this fight was kind of like a gag fight. We saw that they didn't really end up beating him, but they did end up actually outsmarting him. So in a way, they did actually end up beating him. But when it comes to like combat wise, we saw Jacob was like on a whole nother level. It was actually dope seeing Jacob's abilities. But yeah, this fight wasn't really, it was just showcasing again that Natsu and Lucy and the Fairy Tail guys, they weren't on par with the Spring and 12 members. And then we get the fatal Natsu versus Gray. Now this was the fight that we were waiting for. It was actually E and D form, Natsu versus Gray. This was dope, seeing them both go fighting back and forth. Now we do know that Ursa ends up stepping in and ended the fight, but this was a dope fight because this was a fight that we were looking forward to for a long time, and it finally happened. And then we move on to Natsu versus Zeref. Now, this is when Zeref had Fairy Heart, and this is a very controversial fight because Zeref at this point, he was definitely a god. Like, he was basically about to go back in time, do all these other things. Then Natsu basically just ends up skunking him, and we're like, oh my god, like, we're just like, why? So yeah, Natsu versus Zeref. Power scaling really did get messed up right here, but nonetheless, it was a cool fight to a certain extent. And then last but not least, we have Natsu versus Acnologia. Now, it was really the Dragon Slayers versus Acnologia, and I'm gonna be honest, this fight, I'm not the biggest fan of this fight. Like, I did not like the way how it ended. I don't want to like go too deep into detail, but let's just say that Natsu ends up one-shotting Acnologia. So yeah, Natsu versus Acnologia, he actually does end up defeating him after him and the Dragon Slayers, or after the Dragon Slayers gave him all his power. He ends up taking out Acnologia. Now, after going through all of Natsu's main fights, I know some of you guys might be thinking, okay, where do you rank Natsu now? Now, there's going to be some people that say that Natsu is the strongest person since he defeated Acnologia, but we got to look at it like this. Number one, that fight was, how should I say this? It was rushed, let's be honest, because it happened within like the last 3 chapters. And me personally, I can't really look at that fight and like judge it and say that, oh, Natsu is the strongest ever just because of that fight. But at the same time, we saw that it took the Dragon Slayers, they had to give Natsu like a combined power in order to defeat him. So me personally, when it comes to Natsu, I still am going to rank him, I'm going to rank him in the top 5 strongest in the Fairy Tail universe of the characters that we've seen so far. I don't want to give like order, but here's the top 5 people that I have. I have Acnologia, Zeref, Gildart, Natsu, and probably like August or somewhere around there. Those are probably like the top 5, or maybe Elaine, those are probably the top 5 people that I have. But yeah, after Natsu defeated Acnologia, he definitely did get his strength boosted up. But overall, that's basically it for this little video. How strong do you guys think Natsu is? Make sure you guys tell me in the comment section. Comment what you guys see down below. Subscribe if you haven't. Peace out.